first 48 hours since the voter ID controversy hit Karnataka, 9,896 voter IDs seized from an apartment. But the Election Commission still doesn't have too many answers for the voters.
For clarity and transparency of the Election Commission.
Second case alli yaar accused idare annadu helboda?
No, see, every detail cannot be, but what you are telling that yes.
Sitting MLA is accused.
That is a fact.
Can you please list total number of accused and is Muniratna in the FIR? Is he listed? His name is there. Please clarify. Yes or no? This or this?
Emphatic yes.
In the third press address, with song and dance, the Election Commission encouraged first-time voters to come out and cast their vote. But when it came to charges and counter-charges of bribe for votes, EC didn't say much.
Can you please?
As I said, RR Nagar constituency, all details have been sent. A special person had come, the Deputy Election Commissioner. He has himself gathered information. He has visited the spot.
There were talks about countermanding this particular election because remember, these voter IDs were found within the constituency of Raja Rajeshwari Nagar. The Congress sitting MLA is Muniratna.
Mirror Now went on ground to try and find out, is voter inducement a reality and how does it really work?
ऐसे वोटर आईडी मांगते हैं, हम लोग आपको पैसे दिला देंगे उनसे, आपके वोटर आईडी दे देंगे तो वोटर आईडी आप पैसे लेने के बाद जिसको आप वोटर आईडी दिए हैं उन्हीं को वोट करना है, दूसरे किसी को नहीं करना है करके बोलते हैं.
Mirror Now asks, why is the Election Commission silent despite the apparent compromise in the election process? Is the voter ID controversy merely the tip of the iceberg? Let's debate.
We're watching the urban debate. In fact, the candidate who has been booked, Muniratna, has denied any connection to the flat or any role in the scandal today to the press. Take a look. All right, we'll come to that in a little bit, but the questions that we're asking this evening on the urban debate are simply this. It's been 2 days, 46 hours nearly, since the Election Commission decided to hold a surprise press conference telling us about the nearly 10,000 for fake, what they call fake voter IDs that they discovered in this one flat. Now, after 2 full days, we still don't know who brought these cards together, who's using that flat. Is it the owner or the person she has rented it to? And despite everything else, the RR Nagar elections are going to go on as planned. Should the Election Commission have had more information to offer the press and the citizens today, since it has been 2 days since this whole thing happened? We do know, of course, that Muniratna, the candidate from that constituency, the Congress candidate from that constituency, has been booked. He claims to have nothing to do with that flat. Listen in.
ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಚಾರ ಆಗಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಮೊದಲು ನಕಲಿ ವೋಟರ್ ಐಡಿ, ನಂತರ ನಕಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಅಸಲಿ, ಮೊದಲಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಕಲಿ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಂತು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಆಮೇಲೆ 50,000 1 ಲಕ್ಷ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಗಳು ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಅಸಲಿ, ಇದು 9,800 ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಇಂಥವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಮನೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅವರು ಭಾಳ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೂ ಮನೆನ ತಗೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿದಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ಅದು ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾನು ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಒಬ್ಬರು ರಂಗರಾಜ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ರೇಖಾ ಜೆಟ್ಟಿಯನ್ನು, ರಂಗರಾಜು ಮತ್ತೆ ರೇಖಾ ಜೆಟ್ಟಿಯವರು ನಾವು ಮನೇನ ಪಡೆದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮಂಜುಳಾ ನಂಜಾಮರಿ ಅವರು ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಇವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಯಜಮಾನರ ಅಣ್ಣನ ಮಗ ರಾಕೇಶ್ ಅಂತ. ರಾಕೇಶ್ ಯಾರು? ಬಿಜೆಪಿಯ ಒಬ್ಬ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತ. 2015ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಬಿಎಂಪಿ ಚುನಾವಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ. ಈ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಮೊದಲು ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೋಗಿರೋ. ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬನಿಗೆ ಹೊಡಿತಾರೆ. ಇಬ್ಬರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಸುಮಾರು ಹುಡುಗರು ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬನಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೊಡಿತಾರೆ, ಒಬ್ಬನಿಗೆ ಹೊಡೆಯಲ್ಲ.
Well, why hasn't there been more clarity on that investigation? Do we know for sure that the people whose cards were in those two trunks can in fact vote, and these were not fake ID cards? Who accumulated them and for what reason? Let me go across to my reporter Shrija, who is on her way to that slum, but apparently it's raining very heavily tonight in Bangalore. Shrija, has there been any sort of clarity on the investigation? You're also talking to the police right now. One would assume, given the fact that these election IDs come very clearly with addresses, that they should have just gone over to the slum or those addresses in question and asked these people who took their IDs. Has that been done? Have you spoken to the people on the ground?
Well, of course, Faye, as far as the investigation is concerned, if you clearly remember when this particular incident snowballed into a whole lot of political controversy, we did, of course, see how both the parties like BJP and Congress indulged in mudslinging. Then we also saw immediately a midnight presser called by the Election Commission claiming that we will look into this investigation. And also within a matter of 24 hours, they came out with a lot of startling details by saying that these 9,756 voter IDs are genuine, and that is exactly what the Election Commission claimed. And of course, where did they exactly trace this to? It was to a slum area, and of course we are right now on our way to this particular slum area. We did, of course, go on ground, also speak to a couple of them, especially living in the slum area. They also say that a couple of them, especially from a few party, came and also took their voter ID cards, but they are not very clear of the fact that which party affiliation or which party do they belong to. Now that will have to be proved by Election Commission of India. Now there are several questions that needs to be answered, especially by the Election Commission, but we see at this point in time, if you clearly remember, there were talks about how they are planning to countermand RR Nagar, the Raja Rajeshwari Nagar elections, the polls, whether they're going to field Muniratna or not. But we also see at this point in time an FIR has been registered against this very sitting MLA who will be contesting just a couple of hours later. And we did, of course, question the Election Commission whether a person who has violated the Election Commission law, will he be able to contest? Will he be allowed to contest? And they say since he is not convicted in this case, he will be allowed to do so. But as far as if you're really looking at the on-ground situation, it is far from truth, because you're looking at not just...
Shrija, what has Muniratna been booked under what charge? What has he been charged with?
Well, there are several sections that we're looking at, not just one or two. In fact, if I could read that out for you, it is section IPC section 120B, and also Representation of People's Act 171E, and also this is for cheating, because however we given to understand, no, these are some of the sections which will be looked into in another after elections. So how long should they wait? Which means he will go into polls, he will also be contesting despite this entire controversy.
All right, Shrija, many thanks for joining us. Very interesting information coming out there. Shrija telling us that Muniratna, the MLA, the current incumbent MLA of RR Nagar, has been charged by the police, or has been booked by the police for cheating and for for violating the rules of the Election Commission. But because these charges have not been investigated yet, he will be allowed to contest the elections, and the elections in RR Nagar will go on as planned. Joining me on the show right now, BT Venkatesh, former High Court State Public Prosecutor, and Aarti Jarat, Senior Journalist. I welcome both of you to this conversation. Also, Vivek Reddy of the BJP joins us as well. Aarti Jarat, I'm going to start with you. This is really unusual. Everything from the beginning up until now. The press conference that the Chief Election Officer has held, the press conferences after that. Well, the investigation has had very little details and conflicting information. He hasn't been very forthcoming with the information to the press. And now we know that, now we find out that RR Nagar elections are going to continue as planned. Do you find that unusual?
Oh, absolutely, Faye, and not just unusual. I think it is shocking, actually, because these, 10,000 odd voter IDs, if they are genuine, that means they were taken away from the voters and stored in this flat. Now, why? Why did they do that? Were they planning to fake those votes? And 10,000 voter IDs is a lot. This is an assembly election. Assembly elections can be won and lost by just a few hundred votes or, a couple of thousand votes. So if you've got 10,000 voter IDs with you,
yes,
you can actually swing an election your way. So, I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. How can they go ahead with these polls without ascertaining, I understand an investigation takes time. So at the moment, they should suspend those polls. And, let the investigation, happen, and let's see who's guilty, and only then decide when the poll should be held. There can always be a poll later.
Absolutely, and I also want to bring in Mr. Venkatesh here. Mr. Venkatesh, the thing that that we found a little unusual is that the time that this investigation is taking. Now we find out, like Aarti rightfully told us, that these are original or real or election voter ID cards that are in function, which means that it's far bigger a problem than if these were fake voter ID cards. Why is the investigation taking so long? Would you have expected them to have moved faster and have more details for us today?
It's pretty difficult given the kind of accusations and information that has been gathered. You see, investigation takes time. It's not that instantaneously we come to a certain conclusions. For example, regarding the information that we have is that earlier there was that these are the fake voter IDs. Then subsequently the statement is made that no, they are not fake voter IDs, but they are original voter IDs. Now many of these aspects need to be, how many of them are original voter IDs, how many of them are fake voter IDs, how come they were found in this particular place. And all this investigation need to happen, whether it was the persons with have addresses and all the particulars of the each person referred in the voter ID. They need to be inquired regarding how that they lost the voter ID, or that whether they have given this person to a particular person, or that the voter ID which is there with them and whatever was found was a fake voter ID. So these are aspects that need to be done with a thorough investigation. Now, jumping the gun and trying to say that okay, it's all over, that you come with the statement that the entire investigation is concluded, I think it's quite unfair. And given the kind of the controversy that has raised and the kind of information, conflicting information that's being supplied, I feel there is a need that it need to be properly investigated. Now, irrespective, the question is that the statement made that the countermanding of the election or suspending the elections for this particular incident, I don't think should be an appropriate situation, because once this particular elections are over, perchance if the person is found guilty, the election would be, it will be an election offense. In fact, we have the history in this country, the very important case of Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan, wherein it was for the corrupt practices, the election was, she was disqualified as a member of parliament. It was subsequent to her winning the election, subsequent to assuming the office of the prime ministership, and when she amended the constitution for that particular purpose, that amendment also was struck down by the Supreme Court, saying that she can't. Once under the Representative People's Act, a person has committed an offence, that holds good. Now, even in respect of the results, which is the outcome of this particular result, would be subject to the investigation in this particular case. So, therefore, I don't feel that there is a necessity to suspending the elections in the first instance. True, that let there be a proper investigation, detailed investigation that need to go on. And the matter at this point of time is in the hands of Election Commissioner and the investigating officer. If there is a need, Election Commissioner can appoint some more number of officers with much more details regarding the same and whatever the details that they have collected. Further details, further information that's available, I think that need to be probed, and the probe need to be complete. jumping the gun and trying to say that no, immediately you stop the election, or to say that the whole case is all investigation is complete. We should not be in a position to come to that conclusion right away. Let the investigating officer, who is duly authorized in this matter, and he is the person who is supposed to make a statement. He is supposed to come with a final report. Every complaint need to be investigated, and at the end of the investigation there is necessity to submit a final report under section 173 of the CRPC. It's mandatory. That need to happen, and for that he has to collect all the information. In case required, he has to secure the forensic evidence regarding the same, regarding the genuinity or fake nature of the voter IDs. All these aspects require certainly time, and with the kind of infrastructure that we have.
No, but Mr. Venkatesh, here we have a situation. Forgive me.
Nature, yeah.
Here we have a situation where the incumbent MLA has been booked for cheating, because there is a suspicion that this might have been him, and yet he's continuing to contest the elections. Isn't that? I mean, either we have enough evidence to book someone. If you're booking someone, why should he be allowed to contest the elections? Perhaps an election that he himself attempted to to cheat.
See, you understand that being accused of an offence and being guilty of an offence are two different things. He is accused of an offence.
But accused by the Election Commission, not accused by the guy on the street. He's being accused by the Election Commission.
You understand that he is accused of an offence. Election Commission is a complainant. That's all. Whoever is the person who has lodged the complaint, he is the complainant. He has to supply information to the investigating officer. It is the investigating officer's prerogative to conduct a detailed investigation and submit it to the court, not even the court.
Right.
A complainant is only an informant. Even if it is President of India, the complaint is an information. It is information supplied to an investigating officer. Once a person, an officer comes to conclusion that there is a cognizable offence that has been committed.
All right, let me bring in Vivek Reddy right now.
If necessary, if necessary, he has the authority to arrest the accused persons who have been accused of the offence. Yeah.
All right, let me bring in Vivek Reddy right now. Vivek Reddy, there were several BJP leaders, including union ministers, who asked for the RR Nagar polls to be countermanded. It has not happened. They will go on as planned, while the MLA in question right now faces charges and investigation. What is the BJP's response to that at this point? Should the Election Commission have countermanded these elections?
I think the Election Commission, Madam, should have countermanded the elections, because, first of all, the election is running under a huge shadow of suspicion. And that shadow of suspicion is voter fraud to a huge magnitude, to an astronomical extent. And in the wake of this situation, is it possible to take a shot in the dark, or is it possible to say that they will try to segregate the impure part of the election, the impure part of the voter fraud from the pure part? Once it cannot do that, the election is vitiated. That is very elementary. And it is shocking that the Election Commission of India has failed to understand this position. This is the first thing. The second thing is, what went on in RR Nagar, this is most unfortunate, is a subversion of democracy. They have tried to do away with the most fairest and purest democratic practices of allowing a voter to exercise his conscience. It is not 10,000 voters exercising their conscience, it is 10,000 voters exercising their conscience at the behest of a person who has coerced them to vote. This is undue influence. And unfortunately, the Election Commission has failed to see that. The larger issue is, we asked the Election Commission, the BJP delegation, the larger issue which we posed to them was, look here, apart from the cards that are seized there are double the amount of cards, more than 20,000 cards, which have been dumped in drains and which have been taken away by these people. What happens to the evidence that is lost? Destruction of evidence is an issue of greater magnitude, which would have touched the heart and conscience of the Election Commission, because it is a betrayal of the fairest democratic practices. And because there is destruction of evidence, it is difficult to surmise, it is difficult to catalogue, or difficult to analyze what was the extent of fraud. And unless and until there was an investigation to bring home these facts and the accused were brought.
Right, Vivek Reddy, if I may ask you a couple of questions, please. If I may ask you a couple of questions. Yes. We understand that the information given to us by the Chief Election Officer at his press conference was that it was members of the BJP who highlighted this to the Election Commission and took the team from the Election Commission to the flat in question and helped them look through everything. Is that true? How did members of the BJP know that there were cards inside that flat?
Well, this has been explained in our press conference led by Mr. Javadekar and other BJP leaders. It is very clear that we noticed some suspicious activity since about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Rakesh, who was one of the persons who noticed it, he is a BJP ward president, and he was a very predominant functionary of the BJP. He noticed this suspicious activity and he went there to examine. When he examined, he questioned the people there as to how they could have so much of voter ID slips and what was actually going on there. And the suspicious activity, why we got to know about the suspicious activity and how we could pinpoint this flat was because there were several vehicles going there with people. They were taking people into this flat and they were bringing them out. And this is the reason why we got the suspicion. And when we noticed all this, we went there. Mr. Muniratna and his people, about 100 people, he sent about 100 of his goons there, and they tried to terrorize the BJP workers who were asking questions about this. That's when the police came and this whole ruckus came out. Therefore, it is very, very, the episode is so clear. It is so clear to the eyes of the commission, to the eyes of the spectators, and eyes of the people of RR Nagar and the citizens of Bangalore. Why would we complain about it? And why would we say that, look here is a case of malpractice and fraud? And ultimately, the person who was caught there, one Nataraj, the accused, the person who was caught there, madam, he was a right hand, a very predominant functionary of Mr. Munratna's campaign. Now, what else is required to nail it? That is enough to show that Mr. Munratna and his henchmen were directly involved in this voter fraud.
Right. Let me just take our viewers through the sections under which Mr. Muniratna has been charged or the FIR has been registered against him. Criminal conspiracy, bribery. We also understand extending undue influence on a person during an election, and under the Representation of People's Act, promoting enmity between classes in connection with the election, perhaps as well. Aarti Charat, the kind of conflicting information we have received so far, and as a journalist, I wonder if you find it as annoying as well. The fact that we started off saying this was a flat that was owned by someone called Manjula. Manjula then turned out to be someone who worked with the BJP. The BJP said she's no longer with us. She said she's with the BJP. She said she rented the house to somebody. There was a Rakesh. There was another name that popped up. We still haven't found the person who rents out this flat. Then the person who rents out this flat turned out to be Rangarajan, the tenant, who has given a completely different, context to the whole thing. The fact that the investigators have not found these basic things, look for a lease document, find out who rents it, hold that person responsible.
Yeah. In fact, I think the investigation has proceeded very slowly, given the fact that an election is happening 48 hours from now. So, I think that they really should have stepped on the gas and moved much more quickly on this. And that is why I think, since they have been so slow in this investigation, and you're getting all these conflicting reports, and the whole thing is really confusing, and, they may have booked, the Congress MLA, but booking somebody is quite different from actually, having enough evidence to prove, to, charge him and file a charge sheet in court. So since this whole thing is taking so long, I think there is a case for countermanding this election and having this election later. One of your panelists referred to Indira Gandhi and, how she was unseated and so on and so forth. Yes, but that judgment came 4 years after the elections, Faye.
Yes.
She was elected in 1971. The judgment came in 1975. So for 4 years, she ruled as Prime Minister. So, listen. Yes, there are provisions for you to go to the Election Commission after an election or before an election, and the Election Commission will investigate, and then, there is a provision where if you find the charges are correct, then you can, you can countermand the election and unseat the elected representative. But if it's going to take 4 years, then what is this form of justice?
Yes.
It means nothing.
do you believe,
voters have
Arti
voted
Gerard,
for
Mr. Gerard,
somebody, and 4 years later they find that this person has been unseated.
Do you believe that actually allowing
sorry, Faye, you were saying something.
allowing someone who is at this point at least being suspected of foul play into a position of power might affect the investigation going forward? If he wins, he becomes MLA.
Of course. In fact, Faye, I mean, I don't have figures offhand, and I can't remember cases offhand, but there are so many times when people don't even approach the Election Commission, or if they approach the Election Commission, the case just gets buried after the elections are over. Because once the election is over, it's all over, and everybody feels that, well, that chapter's closed. Now what's the point of, sort of carrying on with it? And that's why, this is precisely why, it's like, if there are charges against somebody who's in a position of power, you expect him or her to take moral responsibility and step down while an investigation is on, so that an investigation can proceed fairly and you can get justice in a proper manner. And then if you find that that person is innocent, then that person can always come back, right? So, that's how it should proceed. I understand that an investigation may take a little time, although I think, they should have really they should have fast-tracked this investigation because there is an election coming up. And I don't see any reason why, if the police used put their weight behind it and, went out in full force, they could have tracked down all those 9,000-10,000 people whose voter IDs were with them, asked them the circumstances in which they lost their cards or they gave away their cards. I mean, surely these are very elementary things, and surely it's also very elementary to establish who's living in that flat, who it belongs to, who was, as you said, I mean, look for a lease deed. Who was the flat rented out to? I mean, these are not, if you and I, who are not investigators, can think of this, I mean, surely the police, which is so much more experienced, can do it. I think they're just dragging their feet.
They're dragging their feet, and one wonders why. People are calling us on the phone line right now to ask our panelists questions. Arvind on the phone line from Bangalore. Arvind, I understand it's raining very heavily in Bangalore, which is also the reason why our reporter Shrija is stuck in traffic. But go on, Arvind, what's your question?
Yeah, it's basically it's very annoying and depressing to see such things coming up in our Bangalore city, which is a cosmopolitan background, right?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of disturbance. Can you just hold on? I'll just come to a better position.
All right, Arvind, you'll have to be quick about it, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. So basically, this whole incident at RR Nagar, I think, is just opening a huge Pandora's box of what's been happening and cooking in the kitchens and the houses of Bangalore in the last 30 to 40 days as a run-up.
But Arvind, tell me something. As a citizen of Bangalore, do you believe that there are people paying money for votes? Do you believe someone's collecting voter IDs? Have you heard of stories like this on the ground? Has this come as a surprise to you?
Yeah, it should definitely be happening, seeing the rampant amount of EC checkings which are happening, the checkposts which are set up, the recent 1 crore which was recovered, which was unaccounted, and there are lots of things which are coming up in the foreground. And definitely, there would be an end reaction to all of this. And I think it is happening, though first-hand information is what I don't have.
Right. Major,
you can foresee it.
Yes, Major Gurdeep Sharma on the phone line from Ludhiana. Major Sharma, go ahead.
Hello, Faye, I have another question.
Yes,
My question is not related with the politics.
Yes.
My question is not related with the nitty-gritty of this particular investigation. My question is linked with the morality.
Okay.
All these leaders who lead us, who give us lectures from highest podiums, even the Red Fort, they have brought the morality to such a level where trusting anybody is very difficult. How can they go and lecture in convocation our students, young students, with the kind of morality they have now displaying in politics?
Where is the morality in politics?
Is that important, or keeping the value of this country more important?
Absolutely, that's a good question. We have Raj on the phone line as well from the RR Nagar constituency in Bangalore. Raj, go ahead.
Hi, Faye. Very good evening,
Good evening.
Very good evening to all the panels here.
I'm just here to say some of the facts, the reasons why these voter IDs are being collected by the political parties, especially from the economically weaker section of our society. One of the workers, in fact, approached me and asked me for my voter ID card in favor of freebies. Okay, so I don't want to name any political party here on this forum, but one of the workers did approach me, and this is a fact, and it's a known fact in our constituency. These are taken as collateral or something like a security to distribute freebies at least one day before the elections. That's how the elections get rigged, not only in this constituency, across many constituencies in Bangalore and Karnataka, ma'am.
So Raj, tell us that conversation. You said someone came up to you and said, give me your voter ID and I will give you freebies. What sort of freebies were on offer?
Give me your voter ID. Okay, give me your voter ID, and every lady in the family will get 2 saris.
And what were they planning on doing with that ID?
They take this as a collateral, because every party, they take it as a collateral, and when they're distributing, they get a count. It's like having a count on the total number of IDs, so that they have a count on the freebies that needs to be distributed. Simple as that, Faye.
Okay, and then it's up to you who you vote for after you've taken 2 saris per family member then. That's the deal, Raj?
People, once they give their IDs and they collect the freebies, usually they don't vote for any other candidates, one. Or the candidates, they say either you don't vote for anyone. For example, if there's a tough fight and there's going to be a vote distribution, for example, in our constituency, there's going to be huge votes. They're going to be divided between Mr. Ramchandra and Mr. Muniraja, the BJP. Both of them belong to the same party, and Mr. Ramchandra is contesting as a JDS candidate this time, though he's one of the senior BJP leader in our area. Okay, so it's going to be a huge division of votes in our constituency. Okay, and there's an imminent defeat of the BJP official candidate in our constituency, ma'am. Okay,
so this is interesting. So what Raj is telling us, this is a completely different angle, because and I'm going to take this to Aarti Jairaj. She's already smiling. Aarti, you know, from yesterday we've been talking about this. What is the use of taking people's voter ID cards? You can't impersonate them. You can't have someone walk up to the booth saying, I'm Faye D'Souza, because you can obviously tell it's not the same person. But if you can keep 9,000 people from voting, that could swing an election. Is that not true, Aarti?
Yeah. Of course, of course. And 9,000 is a lot. You can actually do it with even less in an assembly election. But yes, 9,000 can make all the difference between winning and losing. So, you know, I mean, you know, and this is why, you know, I mean, surely it shouldn't be difficult to establish, you know, who these people were whose cards have gone, which way were they going to vote. I mean, these are all things which, you know, I mean, it shouldn't take that long. Yes, I understand to you know, make out a foolproof case which leads to a charge sheet and then ultimately to court for a trial. That may take time. But at least your basic facts, you know, should be available by now. They should have been available by now. And if they're not available by now, then there is no option but to countermand the election, because once the election is done, and if whoever the guilty party is gets elected, you know, then I mean he's going to make sure that the investigation doesn't continue.
Right. Let me actually bring in Vivek Reddy here. Mr. Reddy, you were on.
I mean, you know, just again to go back to the Indira Gandhi case. To go back to the Indira Gandhi case, she was Prime Minister for 4 years, and then she was unseated. And what did she do? She declared emergency. Because she was Prime Minister, she was in a position to declare emergency. And, you know, the whole thing was, so, you know, this is the point, that before the person gets into a position where they can influence a decision or an investigation, you need to clarify, you need to clear the air, you need to, you know, you need to have some facts there in front of you, and you need to stop these polls.
Yes. I'm going to ask Vivek Reddy this question. Vivek Reddy is an incumbent MLA, is a current MLA with the BJP. Mr. Reddy, you were on a panel discussion with me last weekend in Bangalore where you said, and I very clearly remember you said that there are people fighting this election with a lot of money, hence we need people with a lot of money to fight against them. And then you went on to say the Election Commission can do very little about it. Why is that? And do you still believe that all of this is happening and the Election Commission is not able to do much about it?
Yes, and actually I'm not an MLA or an incumbent MLA, but in any case, with the issue that you are now highlighting, that the Election Commission cannot do much about it, I think I seem to be vindicated. I seem to be justified in making that statement, but actually, the Election Commission should be proactive. It should assert in such circumstances. Wherever there is evidence of fraud, as our co-panelist who just spoke before me was saying, wherever there is evidence of fraud, and the magnitude is huge, then the Election Commission must step in, because ultimately it is the question of ensuring fairness in this election, ensuring that people have the trust and the confidence to vote, and ensuring that the people know that they are going to elect their representative in a pure, or at least substantially pure election process. Unfortunately, the Election Commission has taken a very short-sighted decision here. This is very sad.
Let me ask these questions one by one. Mr. Reddy, let me ask these questions one by one. Do you believe that there is a lot of money being used to fight these elections?
Let me just finish.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. There is a lot of money being used to fight these elections, and this money, this clout of money power is being exhibited by Congress, and what else is evident in this circumstance. There was a previous viewer who was asking one question. He was saying that this is for freebies. Apparently, voter cards are being taken in order to ensure that the freebie passes to them and they get their promise to vote. Now, this is a sort of an undue influence which cannot be spared at all in any modern democracy. This is getting back to those medieval times when people used to be slavish, or people used to be tempted or trapped for certain small things. That is what is happening today. And the sad thing here is that it is getting into the educated votes also. That is the sort of money power the present incumbent MLA in RR Nagar is exhibiting. He was caught on a 1,500 crore fake bill scam, in which he is charge-sheeted also. Because he is charge-sheeted, we can courageously bring it out to the open public domain and say this has been his past conduct. He is facing criminal investigation. And how could the Election Commission be bereft of common sense in seeing these basic things? As our co-panelist said, should we get justice after 4 years? After a person who is disentitled enjoys power? This is a sort of politics that we don't want in this country. What are we showing our children? That is the sad thing here, most unfortunate, that the Election Commission could not mend it. There is no corrective mechanism in the Election Commission.
Okay, so here we have a member of the BJP saying effectively that you lost faith in the Election Commission. You believe the Election Commission to be toothless. Mr. B.T. Venkatesh, I also want to bring you questions that our viewers are sending us. Is the police investigation being done on time? Why have they not looked at the CCTV visuals of that premises? Have they checked the property tax, electricity bill, lease agreement, utility bills? What are they doing right now? What are the visuals that we're looking at which had a lot of the Congress symbols in them? Just to tell our viewers what those visuals are. Those are visuals of the flat that was raided. So all of the visuals that you see, the papers on the ground, the papers in the trunk, this is what happened. This was from the flat that was raided. Mr. B.T. Venkatesh, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. It's a very interesting aspect. It's thankful that, you are conducting this kind of a program. I really thank you for that. And two, I think very importantly, you notice in the course of the whole program now that the responses from various persons, be it Mr. Vivek Reddy in the Council in the High Court, or the other panelists who are also indignant about what the thing has happened. But one aspect that needs to be looked into is that this program has demonstrated that there are great amount of suspicion actually who did it. There is great amount of suspicion as to the nature of things that have taken place. Now, precisely for that reason, the Election Commission has not come to the conclusion regarding countermanding of the election. I think that should be the way we should look at. Two, that the investigation has to happen in detail. In fact, it's very important. See, you're talking in terms of CCTV footage, You're talking in terms of the responses from the persons whose voter IDs have been seized by the police. All these aspects need to happen. And secondly, you see, I was a friend of Gauri Lankesh. We have seen the incident that has taken place. We have not seen any progress there. The detection on CCTV footage, it takes some time. It does not happen instantaneously. With the kind of limited infrastructure that we have for investigation, limited technology that's in existence for us, it becomes very difficult for the police to come to the conclusion instantaneously that whether one is guilty or one is not guilty, or that who is guilty.
Right. Let me bring in Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy as well right now.
The very fact that we look at the moral. Let me complete.
Go ahead, please.
When we look at morality, in fact, this is something which is always pushed across, that morality is being brought into this issue. It's an investigation that needs to happen. Investigation is regarding an offense, a cognizable offense that has taken place. The police need to do the investigation. Jumping the gun that X is guilty or Y is guilty or that there is a possibility of anyone else is guilty is speculative. I think, can we exercise that kind of speculation and come to this kind of situation? I think that's
I understand what you're saying.
unfair.
Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy joins us right now. He's former Chief Election Commissioner. Mr. Krishnamurthy, I'm very grateful to have you with us on the show. I want to ask you, first of all, your reaction to the last 46 hours since the first press conference held by the Chief Election Officer in Karnataka, and the fact that we've had such sketchy details of that investigation. Are you surprised that the R.R. Nagar election is going to go on as planned?
Well, as far as I am concerned, I have no information about the result of the investigation.
Yes, please go on.
If the investigation is complete, I think they can take a decision. If the investigation is not complete, I think they have to take a decision whether it should be deferred or not. I have no information whether the investigation is complete. As per the press conference of the CEO, I got the impression that the investigation was still on in the evening. So unless it is a final information is available about the investigation, the question of whether you should go ahead with the election or not will be I think, will be taken, does not arise immediately. It will be taken only after the investigation details are available.
Well, to be fair, Mr. Krishnamurthy, we only have 2 days now. Voting will happen on Saturday morning. So my question to you is, over 9,000 real voter ID cards have been found. How serious is this in terms of election fraud, in your opinion?
I have no doubt that it is a very serious offence. It's an electoral offence which needs to be thoroughly investigated. Action should be taken against the person concerned as far as the offence is concerned. The second aspect is whether the election should go ahead in that constituency or not. If 9,500 people voter identity is not available there with the Election Commission for inquiry, and even if they assume that you can give them alternate means of identification, it may not be ideal to go ahead with the election. It is better to be sure about the investigation, sure about whether there is an impact on the purity of the election or not. They have to take a decision. And I am sure that the Election Commission will take the decision by tomorrow.
Mr. Krishnamurthy, we have now information from the CEO himself that Mr. Muniratna, who is the incumbent MLA in that area, has been named in an FIR. Yet he continues to contest elections. Do you see a problem there? That someone who has been named in an FIR, who's being suspected of this fraud,
not at all.
Is contesting?
The law does not. The law does not disqualify a person merely because he is in the FIR. Unless he has been convicted, there is no disqualification attached to that. But as far as this particular case, if his name is mentioned in the FIR, it is for the voters to make a judgment. I don't think the law prevents a person from contesting the election.
Right, and I also want to ask you, Mr. Krishnamurthy, to react to what Mr. Vivek Reddy of the BJP just said, and he said this twice to me so far on television, where he said that there is a lot of money being used in this election, and the Election Commission has not been able to do much about it, effectively calling the Election Commission toothless. What's your reaction to that?
Unfortunately, in India, the money power is playing a very dirty role in elections. I think an answer has to be found by means of a public funding of elections. I don't think our Indian political parties are disciplined enough to be transparent in their spending. So we have to find an alternative method. The present system has failed, in my opinion.
presence. And would you say, Mr. Krishnamurthy, that with the passage of time, since you were actively within the Election Commission, that the money factor, the dirty money factor, has gotten worse?
Yes, I have no doubt in saying that, because over a period of time, money is playing a very dirty, active role in the elections in India. That is why I have been suggesting that there should be a national election fund from which the election should be conducted, with the money being given as donation by corporates and individuals with 100% tax exemption. The present system of election bonds, in my opinion, has only worsened the situation as far as the use of money power is concerned.
Mr. Krishnamurthy, we had a viewer who called us on the phone line. Raj called us from RR Nagar, which is the constituency in question, and told us that he himself and family members received offers saying, we will give you 2 saris per family member. You give us your voter ID cards, we'll hold them until after the elections, thereby not allowing you to vote. So this is not an aim perhaps of voting on behalf of somebody else, but actually keeping a whole group of people from voting. Now 9,000 voter ID cards in a constituency of a little over 4 lakhs. 4 lakh voters. Go ahead, please.
I'm not surprised. And that's why I said 9,500 cards being found in one place is indeed a serious offense affecting the purity of the election process. So we have to find a solution to that.
All right, Mr. Krishnamurthy, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Mr. Krishnamurthy, former Chief Election Commissioner, joining us from Chennai. They're telling us very clearly that he believes that the election in RR Nagar should be put off until this investigation is complete. He also believes that Mr. Muniratna, he said, will only know whether or not he's guilty after an investigation, and there's no part of the law that disqualifies him in the meantime. But the most important thing that Mr. Krishnamurthy said was that he does believe that dirty money and the role it plays in our elections has gotten much worse since he was active in the Election Commission. That's unfortunately where we have to leave it. Our Karnataka elections, at least, if this is a dress rehearsal for what's happening in 2019, this was a ghastly dress rehearsal. The quality of the campaigns, the things that the politicians were saying about each other, the kind of language that was being used, the little or poor attention that was paid to the actual issues of the people of Karnataka, whether that was water or roads or jobs or anything else, the focus was really on dividing the state. The focus was on causing problems based on caste and language and religion. And then to find out things like this, one hopes that this is not how elections are going to be fought in the future in our country. Fake news, WhatsApp details, big groups, our social media details being used against us, and now this massive, massive scam. The voices on our panel were unanimous in the fact that the Election Commission should countermand the elections in RR Nagar. One wonders why it hasn't happened yet. We'll bring you more updates on this story. Thanks for watching.